Tonight in our continuing series based on the NECN documentary Aftermath, we meet another soldier who returned from Iraq with severe injuries. Pete Damon of Middleborough, Massachusetts, lost both hands in a military accident. He's found a way to live his passion despite the loss. Our story is narrated by Natalie Jacobson.
This is what I want to do. This is what gives me joy and satisfaction. I'll be at the same level as some of the artists that I admire and respect. I'm just confident that someday I can get there. You know, I can't move the brush around like a normal person would be able to, but you know, you just find ways to improvise, and you have to just accept some things you can't do.
Sergeant Pete Damon always loved to draw, but growing up in a close-knit working-class neighborhood in Brockton, Massachusetts, he never imagined he could become an artist. He had little patience for school, but loved to work with his hands. At 16, Pete made the decision to drop out and to try electrical work. Without any formal training, he had limited opportunities. Pete says by age 20, his future looked dim.
I was just kind of stuck in a serious rut where it didn't feel like my life really had no direction, wasn't doing the right thing, and I just felt like I needed some sort of discipline to get me on the right track, so military seemed like a good option to me.
In March of 2000, Pete joined the Massachusetts Army National Guard. He was assigned to the 16th Aviation Regiment, where he trained as a helicopter mechanic. Pete was working at Camp Edwards on Cape Cod the day the Iraq War began in March of 2003. By now, he was 30 years of age and had a 5-year-old daughter and infant son with his longtime girlfriend, Jennifer Monis. But when he heard the military needed helicopter mechanics to go to Iraq, he immediately volunteered.
It's a job to be done. You got to do what you got to do, and if you got to go, we got to go.
Pete was stationed on an airfield in Balad, north of Baghdad, where he maintained and repaired aircraft. On October 21st, 2003, he was performing routine maintenance on a helicopter with a 19-year-old specialist, Paul Bush. The low-pressure tank he should have used to fill the tires was broken, so Pete was instructed to fill them quickly with a high-pressure tank.
It was a non-conventional procedure. We shouldn't have been doing what we were doing.
The rim of the tire Pete was working on could not withstand the pressure. It exploded, killing Specialist Bush and severing Pete Damon's hands.
I kind of remember being in the hangar, looking down at what was left of my arms, and just total horror.
Pete was rushed to Landstuhl, a medical facility in Germany, and then to the Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Bethesda, Maryland. Pete's girlfriend, Jennifer, now his wife, received the call she dreaded.
I talked to him a couple of days prior to that, and the last thing I said to him was, be safe. And then to have this phone call out of the blue was very upsetting.
Pete spent 15 months recovering at Walter Reed, where he had several surgeries, including one to take 3 more inches off of his right arm.
Going from being an able-bodied man to having to be fed and bathed, I wanted to do whatever I had to do to get out of that situation.
By February 2005, after 15 months at Walter Reed, Pete Damon was back in Massachusetts with his wife and 2 young children. The family lived with Pete's mother.
You hear about soldiers coming home every day, wounded, and you don't really stop to think of the extent of their injuries.
Pete's 2 young children, Allura and Daniel, had their dad back, but there were adjustments to be made.
My daughter, when Daddy got hurt, she was worried, oh, how's he going to play this game with me, and what if we want to play that? Our Danny, he was too young to really remember Daddy with his hands, so it didn't really impact him as much as it did our daughter.
As a man who had always worked with his hands, Pete couldn't imagine how he would support his family now. He was especially worried about where they would live. Then, a remarkable gift. A new organization committed to building specially adapted homes for disabled service members approached him. Homes for Our Troops chose Pete to be the recipient of the first house the organization would build for injured vets. Pete felt relieved, but guilty.
You know, again, that guilt of not being actually hurt in combat was coming through, and maybe I wasn't as deserving as some of the other guys that I had met at Walter Reed to get this great gift.
Homes for Our Troops assured Pete they would be building many homes for injured troops in the coming years.
Look at this house. Isn't this fabulous?
The house is adapted for Pete's special needs. It provides great pleasure and peace of mind, but the helicopter accident still weighs heavily. Pete cannot shake his sorrow over the death of the young mechanic who died the day of the accident.
He had a lot of hopes and dreams. I'm sorry. I was having trouble dealing with that at the time. I still do.
Pete found solace in his old childhood passion, art. He lost his right arm above the elbow, but still has his left elbow. Once a righty, he has had to train himself to draw left-handed.
You know, it kind of made me feel worthwhile and worthy, more normal. Kind of made me feel like if I could still draw pictures and paint, how great would that be?
As Pete's passion for painting grew, he came to a decision. He wanted art to be his life's work. With the help of family and friends, he transformed an old pharmacy into an art gallery.
It might sound kind of cocky, but I think I've earned the right to do what I want to do now. I mean, this is what I want to do, and you know, this is what gives me joy and satisfaction.
Pete started to sell the work of local artists as well as his own paintings.
You know, I kind of prided myself on working with my hands. After I lost my hands, it was a deep void to fill, and art has really filled that, both emotionally and career-wise.
Painting helps Pete, but the pain, phantom pain in his arms, never goes away. He has to rely on prescribed medications.
The only medication I found that works well is a combination of methadone and Neurontin.
Like many other returning vets who have experienced trauma, Pete has been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder and still has trouble coping with stress.
It's really hard to handle. I'm not even having trouble doing this interview today. I'm having trouble finding. Sometimes I'm stumbling for words a lot. I have short-term memory loss.
Pete has discovered the way out of the pain and trauma is to find a passion.
When you go back in and put the gray over that, I think it'll look nice.
A passion so fulfilling it overcomes both the challenges and the memories.
You're doing a good job, John. Like I said, that background is a lot warmer now.
For Pete, it is teaching art.
It's a good contrast to those cool purples.
And finally fulfilling his dream of becoming an artist.
Painting is more about seeing things than it is about, you know, being able to use your hands. I don't think I would be a better artist if I still had hands. So, go ahead, Danny. Ah, good one.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Pete Damon has suffered a terrible injury and a profound loss, but his life is rich.
1, 2, 3. Better move it or lose it, buddy.
He lives his passion and is blessed with the love and support of his wife and his children.
I don't ever want them to see me beating myself up or feeling sorry for myself. I want them to see that I can overcome this.
He wants to be a good example for people in his situation. He wants to be a good example for his children.
Oh, he's out. You got me, buddy. Oh, you know.
Just because he lost his hands doesn't mean he can't be looked up to.
The lesson I want them to learn is that no matter what happens to you in life, there's a way to get around it and overcome it. To be whatever you want to be. That's a huge motivation for me, is to not let them see me down and out.